Don't know if that's counted 60 seconds or not, but I'm going to press ahead just looking at the time. So, good morning, all. Thank you all so much for joining us. Just by way of introductions, if you don't know me already, my name is Sanjay Gadhia. I'm head of sales at Standard Life Home Finance, and I'm really pleased to be joined once more by Philip Calvert. Phil, do you mind just giving us the audience an introduction, please?
Yes, I will. I don't know what I clicked, but I clicked something that I shouldn't have done. But there we go. Yeah, hi everyone. Nice to see a few familiar faces. For my sins, I've been working with financial advisors for 46, 47 years. Came straight out of school and became a broker rep for a life company. So I've seen literally every single side of the financial advice world. And I tell you, this whole later life space is, to me, one of the most exciting parts of it right now. It really, really is such a great opportunity for so many people. And hopefully I can help with some of the sales and marketing skills, the internet marketing skills that will hopefully help you to convert more of your ideal clients.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Phil. We're really pleased, in fact. So, Phil joined us on a session sort of back end of last year, which we had some amazing feedback and fantastic positive feedback on. So, what better than to bring the expert to you all to support you with some lead generation ideas. So, just by way of the format, we've got Phil that's got some content to support you all for the first hour. This session does run for 90 minutes. There's absolutely an opportunity at the end to ask any questions, but if you have any questions whilst Phil's talking, please drop them in the chat or get yourselves off mic. We really want an interactive and engaging session. So if you've got any questions or queries, throw them in the chat, get yourself off mic, and we'll either pick them up as we go, or if not, we can field them right at the end. That's enough of my wonderful dulcet tones for now, Phil. I'm going to send it over to the expert, sir.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. Let me just get some slides for everybody and we can take it from there. If I can get them up on the screen. Sanjay, would you be able to tell me whether or not, can you see any slides there, Sanjay?
Yep, we are spot on, Phil. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, let's crack on. So we're going to focus today on low cost marketing. And that's going to really be focused around how to make your website work harder for you. I'm going to make the assumption that the vast majority of you watching today have got a website. So that you do have a presence out there on the internet. What's quite interesting, it's worth mentioning right from the start that Google is no longer the only game in town. You know, when people are looking for a financial advisor to cover any particular aspect of personal finance, you know, Google tends to be the first port of call. But what more and more people these days are doing are they're using AI. They're using ChatGPT as a search engine. They also use LinkedIn as a search engine as well. And I'm already hearing from financial advisors who are telling me that they're starting to get their first few inquiries from people who've used ChatGPT to search for financial advisors. So everything I'm going to talk about today is also relevant to AI. We'll mention AI because we can't not mention AI. The only thing I would ask for, if we're going to have any rules around this particular session, is that we need to have open minds. One or two of you will have heard one or two things you might have heard before. You might have tried one or two things in the past and it didn't work. I'd like you to keep an open mind because what didn't necessarily work in the past may well work today. Now, as I said, we're going to focus on websites and low cost marketing. There is so much that you could do, to be quite honest, if you want to reach out and find more ideal clients. And there are a lot of marketing people who will have you believe that this is what you need to be doing. You need to be posting content everywhere, all of the time, sharing every single aspect of your life. And to be really quite honest, that's just exhausting. It's time consuming. It doesn't really work. And far better is to focus on the things that that really do work. And a website and having a good quality website is still right at the heart of that. In our Life Talk group on Facebook for financial advisors, one of the questions that gets asked most of all is, where are people getting leads from? Do they buy leads? Do they use Unbiased? Do they use Vouched For? Do they use Bark? You know, there's a wealth of different places that you can get leads. And what's really interesting, and hopefully this is going to come across today, is that Most financial advisors, whatever your area of specialism is, have got more than enough leads right under their noses, and they are hiding in plain sight. And these are people who are actually visiting your website, but who are not going on to make an inquiry. And there's all sorts of reasons why that happens or doesn't happen, as the case may be, which we will be going into today. Now, we all know that typically most financial advisors get a lot of their new leads from referrals from existing clients. Someone is at a dinner party or wherever, you're in a pub, and someone asks people around the table, hey, does anybody know who could help my daughter get a mortgage to buy her first flat? And chances are there'll be someone around the table who puts their hands up and says, yeah, talk to my financial advisor, Jones & Co. They're great. And in the old days, that's all you needed. You needed a recommendation from another human being, and you'd write Jones & Co. down on the napkin, and the next day you'd phone them up. The only thing is that conversation still takes place today, but the process is a little bit more involved. Someone still recommends, yeah, talk to my financial advisor. They're great. But as humans, we like to feel, okay, I'd like to be part of this decision. So what we do is we tend to go onto Google, let's go check out Jones & Co. And while we're on Google, of course, we're going to find other financial advisors in the area whose websites may well get our attention as well. So although we've been recommended to talk to Jones & Co., there's a very good chance that we will actually look at other websites as well. We'll look at Smith & Co., we'll look at Williamson & Co. as well. And it's entirely possible that although we've been recommended to talk to Jones & Co., we might think, actually, I don't like the look of them, I want to talk to somebody else. So that recommendation that used to be all but guarantee you a new client isn't necessarily going to guarantee you that at all. So I would argue that this is a danger point. Although you've been recommended to talk to Jones & Co., you're going to look at other financial advisors. So you really need to make sure that your website is actually going to get people's attention enough to the extent they're going to go, yep, I really want to talk to this financial advisor. I'd also just make another point that we need to be aware of, that it is entirely possible that although someone's been recommended, yeah, go talk to my financial advisor, that some consumers will decide for themselves, actually, I don't think I need to talk to a financial advisor. Maybe I can figure this out for myself. Now, I know in the later life space, you've got to talk to a financial advisor, but just kind of keep that in mind. And something else that's worth keeping in mind as well is that, yes, we're hearing more about ChatGPT, we're hearing more about AI. I don't know how many of you are aware of this now, but it is now possible to talk to ChatGPT on WhatsApp. You can actually add ChatGPT as a contact on WhatsApp, and you can chat with ChatGPT about any aspect of personal finance. Now, when you consider that the overwhelming majority of the adult population in the UK use WhatsApp, if you can talk to ChatGPT through your WhatsApp, that makes you've got to question, to what extent do I feel that I need to talk to a financial advisor? So just kind of be conscious of that. So some people will want to get personal finance information directly from ChatGPT and may even bypass financial advisors. But on the other side of the coin, they will do what I mentioned earlier, and they will say to ChatGPT on WhatsApp, can you recommend a financial advisor who can help me release equity, who is quite local? So just be conscious that AI is creeping into our world, and indeed the world of our clients. So our website has really got to cut the mustard. And whilst it is potentially the most effective form of lead generation for financial advisors, it is currently the most ineffective form of lead generation for financial advisors. And I want to talk about why that is at the moment. Let's start with this point. Overused cliched imagery. So I've done a lot of research into financial advisors' websites, whether that's in the wealth space, whether it's in the protection space, the later life space, and my goodness, do we go for these cliches in a big way. We get a lot of old folks sitting on benches, grandparents flying kites with their grandchildren. We get hands holding green shoots, lighthouses, compasses, balloons, you name it, all these wildly overused cliches, which doesn't really represent today's marketplace, and I'll explain why that is. We get a lot of financial advisors websites with old folks sitting on cliff edges. Why they would do that, I don't know. And playing with their grandchildren, and websites that really tell us what we can already figure out for ourselves. Our websites, I get why we use this kind of imagery, but it really doesn't help us. And some of the language and the wording that financial advisors are using on the web, it's banal. It doesn't help our target audience. I would argue that we really need to rethink this. Now, this lady on the left is an AI, almost an exact copy of a lady at my yoga class, Jean. And Jean won't mind me telling you that she is 82 years old. She is the strongest person in my yoga class. She goes to the gym, she does a lot of sport, and she, like a lot of older people now, are not the sort of older people that we might be representing on our websites. And if you look at the sort of list of things that a lot of older people like to do on the right-hand side there, maybe our websites should reflect more of the activities that they are actually doing. Now, some of you know that when I was much younger, I used to do rock concert photography. And last year I went to see Judas Priest and Uriah Heep at Wembley Stadium. And Rob Halford of Judas Priest is 73 years old. Mick Box of Uriah Heep is 76 years old. So let me just pose that question to you. Why are we showing, for the most part, doddering old folk on our websites when really a lot of older people these days are very alive, they are very well, they are very active? And I just throw this one into the mix for you to just think about the sort of imagery and the words and the phrases that we're using on our websites, and is it actually appealing to today's older people? And particularly, let's argue the younger end of the scale is between 55 to 60. Never mind the older end of the scale. So I just throw that into the mix and I think this appeals to financial advisors in all markets, that we tend to look at retirement planning and retirement income planning as something for old people. But are you actually reflecting what many old people actually look like and how they behave? Now, if, for example, you want to target dentists nearing retirement, then yeah, let's have some pictures of dentists or lawyers nearing retirement. And the message here really is that we've got to be different. We've got to stop all looking the same as financial advisors. None of us are paid to look and behave like other financial advisors. We're not paid to be lookalikes. Now, the thing about lookalikes, particularly professional lookalikes, is that, yeah, it's quite entertaining, it's quite fun, but the more you look at the lookalikes, the more kind of weird it starts to get after a while. So let's stop trying to look like each of one another. Let's keep this up to date, and let's trying to differentiate ourselves and really stand out from the crowd. Because as I said, if somebody's recommended to talk to you and they go check you out on Google and they look at other nearby financial advisors, they will probably see that the words on your website are the exact same words that are on your next door neighbor's website as well. We all look and say the same thing. And I can do a little party piece at conferences and workshops where I can write the About Us page for pretty well any financial advisor in the country without having met them. And I can do that because they all say the same thing. So just kind of bear that in mind. Are you a lookalike? Does your website have all that cliched imagery? And to what extent are you representing the needs of real people today? So first thing I'm going to talk about is, let's not focus on getting traffic. Normally when you get talks about website, it's all about how do we get traffic to our website? How do we get visitors to our website? Now, you don't need me to talk about that. You just go onto YouTube and you'll go down multiple rabbit holes as to how to get people to visit your website. What I want to pose to you today is the fact that you've already got more than enough people visiting your website. So the last bit of research I did on financial advisors' websites was I found that the average number of visitors to financial advisors' websites right across the UK, and I did this is across about 200 financial advisors' different websites, and the average number of visits was 197 people every single month. Just think about that for a moment. 197 people visiting your website on average. Now, some of you will have many, many more than that, and some of you will have far fewer than that. Let's just say, for sake of argument, though, let's imagine that half of those visitors were bots, or people who are never going to visit you or want to work with you. You're still left with a good 100 who might potentially want to talk to you. So this is the average number, and it's just worth keeping that. If your average is significantly lower than that, then if your number of visitors is much, much lower, then clearly you need to do some work on driving more people to your website. If it's much, much higher than that, I would ask you, well, what's your conversion rate? What percentage of these people are actually going on to make inquiries? Now, here's the thing. When I asked these 200 or so financial advisors for their website stats, the overwhelming majority had no idea anything at all about their websites. And at the very, very least, you really need to know how many people are visiting your website each month, how many pages they visit, which pages of your website, how long do they spend, what did they type into Google or ChatGPT to find you, where they're based, and what was the page where they finally gave up and had enough. Now, if you use Google Analytics, you can get a lot more information than that. You can get really quite geeky on this if you really want to. But for most financial advisors, these are the numbers that you need to know. And I mean, you need to know them. And if you don't already know your website visitors and this sort of basic information, I would urge you to add it to your monthly things to do list and get a nice little graph going on my visits, number of visits. Are they going up or are they going down? And how many people are going on to make inquiries? So in addition to that basic information, you also need to know something else that's really quite important. And that's what's known as the bounce rate. And that is the percentage of people who arrive on your website and then they bounce straight off. For whatever reason, and could be multiple reasons why they bounce straight off, they have decided not to stay and look at other web pages. So the average bounce rate of those websites that I looked at was 54%. 54% of visitors to financial advisors' websites bounce straight off. And again, we don't know why they bounce straight off. If you've got a one-page website, then that's fine, but most financial advisors have got quite a few pages. In fact, one of the reasons why so many people bounce off a financial advisor's website is because on average, on the home page alone, there are 34 clickable links. So just think about that for the moment. So those drop down menus that you might have at the top or down the side or down the bottom, when you count them all up, on average, there are 34 clickable links. So no wonder so many people bounce off, because they are confused. We are giving them too much to think about when they first visit their website. So maybe we're doing all this really great work through social media, through LinkedIn, through referrals, through seminars, all this good work that we're doing, and people are coming to your website and there's too much for them to think about. Confusion always causes problems. So that's a first point I would urge you to think about, to really think about simplifying your homepage. And if this is what is happening on your website, you've got a situation where it's no better than going down the local shopping mall and handing out leaflets in the hope that you find something. You'll give a leaflet to someone who goes, oh my goodness, I've been looking for a later life lending advisor all my life. Thank you for giving me that leaflet. It just doesn't work. It's as simple as that. Something else that's worth bearing in mind as well is something called Hick's Law. The more choices someone has, the longer it takes them to react and to make a decision. And that is also influenced by age and alertness. So although rock stars may be in your target market, age does slow down people's reaction times and the longer it's going to take people to decide, if there's too much for them to decide on what to do when they get to the website, the more likely it is that they will leave. So just kind of think about the message here is, let's try and simplify our home pages. But let's give you a bit more about this. So first thing I would urge you to do is to audit your website, as well as, how complicated is the homepage, is to also look at the language that is being used on your language. How much do you talk about talk about us as advisors, and how much do you talk about the person visit? Is your website all about us, or is it all about the visitor? Ideally, it should be much more about the visitor than about you, the advisor. The words and terminology, as an industry, we really are dreadful at the words and the phrases and the acronyms that we use. And no wonder more consumers don't visit financial advisors. And I'll give you some classic examples of that at the moment. Is your website complicated? Is there anything that you give people absolute valuable free value? Is there something they can download, or a free guide that will really help answer some of their questions? Have you got case studies on your website? I think case studies for the later life lending market are just an absolute no-brainer. People hear about equity release, and you know as well as I do that there are 1,000,001 myths about equity release that are just plain wrong. And case studies are a brilliant way of clarifying how equity release or later life lending works. And if there are case studies there, people can actually see the product, the solution in action. And one other thing I would just, if you do nothing else as a result of today's presentation, please, please, please try and get some video testimonials of your clients, because people by people, they always have done. It's known as social proof. If I'm a visitor to your website, and maybe I'm thinking about equity release, maybe I've read about it in the papers, maybe I've been recommended to talk to you, and the first thing I see on your website is a video of someone like me saying, since working with Jones & Co, it's changed our life. It's been a weight off our shoulders. We had no idea that we could do this, and I can't recommend Jones & Co high enough. That's going to make the likelihood that I'm going to want to talk to Jones & Co will just dramatically increase. So if someone does refer you, and they come along to your website, and your website has got video testimonials from real clients of yours, that really, really does differentiate you and make you so different. Now, I've been banging on about video testimonials, and Phil Bray, the Yardstick Agency, and other people who help financial advisors with their marketing, we've been banging on about video testimonials since it was possible to put video on websites. Yet so few advisors actually do it. Yet it is one of, if not the single most effective ways to convert people and get them to want to talk to you. So those people who are visiting your website, if they see a video testimonial up front and center on your homepage, that dramatically increases the likelihood that they will be turned into a prospect, if not a client as well. And this doesn't need to cost. You can do this on your mobile phone. Our mobile phones are broadcast quality these days. If you do have a little bit of budget, then go down to a local videographer, or maybe go to a local university or a local college and find an intern and get this done. And your video testimonials, they only need to be 30 seconds long. You don't need to have like a 20-minute lecture from them. Short, sharp, real human beings saying how you changed their lives. I'm really passionate about this particular issue, and I just wish more financial advisors would actually do this, because this is the one thing that really will make a difference. So let's look at the words that are on your websites. And we can see straight away, was these are all words that we use every day. They're just nonsense, to be quite honest. It's certainly in the wealth space. We need to be thinking about that. And in the later life space, these are words and phrases that cause all sorts of emotions perhaps to come up in people's minds, and they genuinely are not particularly helpful. When it comes down to things like key features, when people are going to sign the contract on the dotted line, then sure, some of these words may be in there. But what I would urge you to be thinking about is, if you are using some of these words on your website, to think about rephrasing them so they actually mean something to our target clients, and to start thinking about some better words that could do this. Now, ChatGPT can really help you there. If you are thinking about rewording your website, just copy and paste your website into ChatGPT and ask it to reword it into plain English so that people can resonate with it and understand it much, much better. And even single words can be really, really powerful to help people. So we could use some of these words, and I'm just throwing these at you, to be quite honest. We will make sure you get a copy of this. I believe that this has been recorded as well, but if anybody wants to reach out to me personally, they're welcome to do that. But you can see straight away how we can change some of these industry jargon that we use and turn it into something that's a lot more meaningful to people. And here's just a couple of tables. Instead of financial and technical jargon, lifetime mortgage, you could say a flexible way to access your home value. Interest roll up, no monthly payments if required or applicable. Drawdown facility, access funds as and when you need them. So you see, it is quite easy to take some of the words and phrases that we use every day and turn them into something that actually means. Some words are emotionally unsettling: debt, borrowing, costs, long-term commitment. Those are potentially emotionally upsetting words, and there are alternative ways that they can be expressed. I'm not going to dwell on these particularly long, but I think you can see really what I'm getting at here. Overly corporate and impersonal phrases, the advisory process, you see that one being used on financial advisors' websites all the time. Simple step-by-step guidance, lending criteria, eligibility made clear and simple. So as part of your website audit, think about how you can change some of the jargon that we use into something that's a lot more meaningful for people, ordinary people who may be quite nervous about this. And those myths, whether they are wrong, they may well be stuck inside people's heads. So we're going to have to do our best to change those myths into something that is a lot more meaningful to people. Instead of unlock cash, enjoy more financial freedom. Instead of borrow against your home, stay in your home on your terms. Instead of equity release, a safe and well-regulated wealth access funds. Instead of financial assessment, support for trusted experts at your own pace. You get it? And just for the hell of it, I ran some of this through ChatGPT, and I said, could you write something that might work better on a financial advisor's website? And again, you don't have to agree with this, but what you can do is just play around with it. So your home is more than just bricks and mortar, it's security, your memories, and your future. If you're considering access some of its value to enjoy life on your terms, we're here to help. Safe, flexible options, boost your retirement income, stay in control, support your loved ones, peace of mind. So you can see how easy it is to change this jargon into plain English language that everyday consumers can understand, and which will go some of the way to dispelling some of those myths. Some of the most powerful words you can use are you and your and because. The word because is the most influential word in the English language. Why do I say that? Because when we are toddlers and we are licking our knife at tea time, and our mum or dad says to us, Johnny, don't lick your knife because you'll cut your tongue, Or if we are sticking a fork into a plug socket and our mum or dad says, Johnny, don't stick a fork into the plug socket because you'll electrocute yourself. The word because gets ingrained into our psyche, that whatever comes after the word because is true and must be believed. So when you're writing your website copy, try and get the word because into it as often as you possibly can, because it really does influence people and they really take notice. So the message so far has been simplification, simple and imagery that's much more relevant to today's consumers, and copywriting on our website that simplifies our message, simplifies our proposition, simplifies our service that we are offering. So think about some of this. In the past, if we wanted to follow this advice, we would have to employ a professional copywriter. Professional copywriters are incredibly expensive, but today we can use ChatGPT, and we can really play around with ChatGPT, and it will really help us to come up with some really powerful copy. And you can say to ChatGPT, I am revisiting my website copy. I would like you to act as a professional copywriter who understands financial advisors, and I would like you to rewrite my webpage so that it is simple and easy to understand by people who may be considering releasing equity and value from their home. Copy and paste it in, and ChatGPT will do that in a matter of seconds. And if you don't like what it does, say, I'd like you to add in this, or I'd like you to tweak this bit, or I'd like you to take that bit out. AI is amazing now. It's just getting better and better and better, but it is particularly good at helping us to convert more of our website visitors today. So a few more quick tips. Remove content. Put things in order. Human beings like things in a logical order. So if you are thinking about that, you could maybe even do an ABC of equity release, and do it like that. Quick tips. Number one, this. Number two. So human beings can see things in a logical order. Use words that human beings are familiar with. Aim your website at your dream ideal client. I would argue that anyone over the age of 55 who owns their own home is not your dream ideal client. Just think about that for a moment. Yes, you may be able to work with them, but I'll bet you anything they are not your dream ideal client. We'll explore a little bit more about knowing who your ideal client is in a minute or two. Humanize your website, get rid of that jargon, get some real personality in there, get those videos showing real clients, maybe even have a video of you so people can get a sense of who you are. Remember, people buy people. They're not just buying a service, they're buying into you as well. Encourage people to engage with your website. In other words, give them something to do. We will talk more about that in a minute or two as well. One way to do that is to offer a lead magnet. I know the words lead magnet sound a bit American and a bit salesy, but for lead magnet, read value. Give them something of value. An e-guide, the ABC of equity release. Download now. All they've got to do is give you your email address. So if I'm thinking that maybe I've been recommended to talk to you as an equity release advisor or later life advisor, and I visit your website and I like the look of it, and I've seen your client testimonials, and there's a free piece of value that I can download, there's no way that I'm not going to give you my email address. So I get some value, you get a name and an email address. Video testimonials we've talked about, and I also mentioned about the importance of knowing your numbers. Now, I always give this example of a financial advisor, Jones Hill. They recently sold up, so their website doesn't exist anymore, but they had got 4 video testimonials on their website. And when I looked at it, to me, this particular website was the gold standard of financial advisors' websites. And I say that for the simple reason that the homepage had got 4 videos on the homepage, and they weren't particularly long. In fact, what they got was a short version on the homepage, and they got much longer versions further inside the website as well. Just please invest in some video testimonials on your website, even if you do them yourself. Get your kids to do it for you. just get some video testimonials on your website. I talk about knowing your numbers. I think this is really quite important. There's various tools that you can use to use your web. So Google Analytics is the kind of standard that everybody goes by. They give you a bit of code, and your website designer can drop the code behind the scenes of your website and make sure that you've got access to the analytics. As I said, Google Analytics can be quite geeky if you want it to be, and you get a lot more data if that's really, really your thing. And that could be really useful. It is worth spending some time having a good close look at your Google Analytics, your website analytics, and it may well be that you spot a few things in there that you'll want to address. Another tool you can use is called Clicky. Super simple. It just gives you the basic stuff with some nice graphs that show you whether your visitors' numbers are going up, how many pages they're looking at. It's so essential that you understand those kind of numbers. Now, if I said to each and every one of you, let's imagine that you've got a firm of solicitors nearby, and they introduce clients to you, or you've got some clients that are introducing, they're referring people to you. If I was to say to you, how many introductions did your local solicitor friend give you last month, you probably know off the top of your head. And how many introductions and referrals have you had from existing clients over the last month, you'll probably know off the top of your head. But if I said to you how many people visited your website, the vast majority of IFAs, financial advisors, have no idea at all. So it's important to know this. And if you are receiving inquiries or getting website visitors from a particular source, then it's really useful to know that, and maybe you can put more effort into that source. So Google is the gold standard. Clicky is right at the other end of the scale, but just as valuable. There's another tool called Hotjar as well, which does much the same, but what it also does, it gives you heat maps, and it will show you which part of your website pages are people clicking on most of all. And it gives you like a heat map. So the red bit means that's the bit where most people are actually clicking on. What they also do is they give you little videos of people moving around your website as well. So you can actually look over the shoulder of somebody who's on your website, and you can see their cursor, you can see how they're moving around your website, and you can see which bits they're clicking on most of all, which bits they're not clicking on. And if you can see the bits of your website which people are not clicking on, then arguably you don't need that on your website. Let's get rid of it. And if they're clicking on certain things more than others, then maybe bring in more of those things. So really, really useful, gives you behind the scenes information on what's actually working on your website and what is not working on your website. Right, I now want to revisit something that I talk about every single time I talk to financial advisors, whether it's about their website, whether it's about how they use LinkedIn, what aspect of their marketing. I always come back to this concept of the value ladder. Most financial advisors do not have a value ladder. It is the process by which a consumer goes through to help them to decide to work with you. Let's take a dentist. Now, my dad was a dentist, and most dentists these days have a value ladder. Most dentists will tell you that it simply is not profitable doing NHS work anymore. My dad retired decades ago, and even when I was a child, I remember him saying that NHS dentistry just wasn't worth doing. You could treat someone, give them a £10 note and tell them to come back for another one next week. It was so unprofitable. The real profit for dentists is in cosmetic work. And so that's really expensive. But to get people into a frame of mind where they think, I'd like to have cosmetic dentistry with this particular dentist, and I want to go beyond just the day-to-day checkups, we need to impress these patients. So what a lot of dentists do these days is they will do free teeth cleaning or a free checkup just to get you in the building. Now, in my dad's day, teeth whitening was near the top of the list. It was high value. These days, teeth whitening is 2 a penny, and a lot of dentists will even give that away free these days, or very heavily discounted, just to get you in the building. In other words, so that they get to know you, so the trust builds, so that you start making referrals to your friends. Hey, you want to check out Dr. Calvert, he's wonderful. Go see them. So a dentist very often has a value ladder, which leads to the expensive stuff. A chiropractor typically has a value ladder. Free stuff at the bottom, leading to the really expensive stuff at the top. No one's going to go on a chiropractor's wellness retreat at a fancy hotel until they've got to know the chiropractor and understood it as well. Gyms have a value ladder as well. I have a value ladder. In fact, this is my value ladder for financial advisors. The really expensive stuff in my service proposition is the deep dive weekend retreat, where we spend a long weekend at a fancy hotel with a fancy chef, and we get into some other speakers, deep dive into marketing. Conference speaking, that's at the high end of my proposition. But no one's going to buy that stuff until they've experienced a bit more of me first. So down the bottom, I've got free stuff. So usually the stuff in green is free. So we've got our Life Talk group on Facebook and on LinkedIn. I give away ebooks. I've got a podcast. I've got a scorecard. We'll talk about scorecards later. I've written a few books, and sometimes I give them away. The stuff in blue, we pay for. Okay, so chargeable stuff. So I've got a chargeable community, workshops like this, coaching calls, and so on and so forth. So this isn't intended to be an advert for my services. What it is supposed to be is to say, I have a value ladder, that if someone wants to work with me, they will inevitably go through this particular process. They'll have the free stuff, so they get to like, and if they like it, they might pay for something. And if they like it a lot, they might pay a lot. That's kind of how it works. What about financial advisors? Well, financial advisors can, and I argue should, have a value ladder as well. Now, you don't have to have everything on this list. Just 2 or 3 things from this list will help. I know financial advisors who have their own weekend retreat as well. I know a financial advisor in the United States who has a weekend retreat. He does one every quarter. He charges $20,000 for his weekend retreat. And he has a waiting list of about 6 months. So don't think for a moment that your expertise cannot be sold to people in other formats. Yes, it can, and some of those other formats can be very profitable for you. But each and every one of you watching this could have some of the other stuff down the bottom. A free e-guide that may be available on your website, a tips book. You might even write a book, a scorecard. You might have a podcast. You might have some educational videos that you give away. You might put on the occasional webinar. But what you can see is these are all tools that you can use. Most of them you can give away free, but you can see they have a natural value that increases with value as we go up the list. So actually giving people advice on releasing equity from their home, that comes near the top. Yeah. But there are other things that you can do that will help say to people, you know, I really need to be working with this financial advisor as well. Now, you're the financial advisors, you're the experts on later life. I went to ChatGPT and I said, could you rough out a value ladder for a later life advisor? And we can start at the bottom. Yeah, you could create your own community on Facebook or LinkedIn or School is another platform, which is free for people. And that could be just as much for existing clients as it is for new prospects. Just think about that. You could create an online community for your existing clients and add additional value to them on a regular basis. And what do you suppose they will do? They will be much more likely to refer their friends to them because you are reminding them of your value. So yes, you might do some equity release for somebody, but there's much more you could do over time. So when you get a copy of this, play around with this. There's all sorts of different ways that you could create your own particular value ladder. And, you know, that ChatGPT could help you. Here's a prompt that you could go to ChatGPT with and say to it, I want you to write a blog for people over the age of 55, whatever. Here's what I want it to accomplish. I want it to actually help the reader by giving them some helpful tips. I want them to cause the reader to believe they really can do that. And I want the reader to believe they want me to help them. Go to ChatGPT, play around with this, and it will create some content for you. And you can do longer prompts. I've got a thing called the Advisor Growth Community, where every single day I give you prompts that you can use with ChatGPT that will help you in your business. And this is an example of a prompt. Literally, you just copy and paste that in to ChatGPT, and it will create all sorts of magic for you, which you can use to attract new clients, to add to your website, to create guides that people will be interested in. So let's now look at some lower cost marketing tactics that you could actually promote on your website. And you can use these anyway, even if you don't promote them on your website. And I want to start with existing clients. The lowest possible cost. How about take your clients for a walk? I see more and more advisors starting to do this as part of their proposition now. They say once a month we have a client walk. We just chat about anything, turn up outside our office or at wherever you want to meet up, and just go for a walk with your existing clients. It gives you an opportunity to chat with people. It gives your clients opportunities to chat with each other and get to know one another. Literally, this costs you nothing to do. The weather's getting a bit nicer now. Now's the time to start thinking about it. And even if you start with just 3 of your existing clients, you don't have to have 100 people. Start with 3 clients and go for a walk. How hard can that be? Build relationships between your existing clients, and in the process, remind them who you are, what you're about, and watch those referrals come in. If you want to do something that's a bit more exciting than walk, how about having your own wine club? Again, none of what I'm showing you now is new. This is stuff that financial advisors actually are already doing. In other words, it's a wine club, yeah, but it's an opportunity for clients to get to know one another. Bring along some local accountants, bring along some local solicitors. It's like networking. Something else you could do. If you do have a niche market, maybe you've got 1 or 2 dentists as clients, maybe write about releasing equity in dental magazines as well. This costs you nothing to do. But some magazines in some niches, they will actually pay you to do this as well. Something else you could do, maybe you've got 1 or 2 clients, yes, in the later life market, that are still pretty active. They still play golf. My mother has only just given up golf at the age of 92. And she used to play every single day, literally every single day. So remember those cliched images. You'll have a lot of clients who are particularly interested in. I know 1 or 2 financial advisors who sponsor their local Crown Green bowling club. You know, that market, if you want to ever ask where do your ideal clients hang out, they hang out at the local Crown Green bowling club. So maybe, yeah, this might cost you a little bit of money. Why don't you pay for a golf clinic? Your local golf club, go to the local pro and say, I'd like to bring along 10 clients. How much would you charge to put on a lesson? And you pay for that, yeah? Video case studies, we talked about that earlier on, nice and easy to do. This isn't changing. Why is that? Okay, my thing is frozen. Oh, here we go. Just bear with me. It doesn't want to change. Why is that? Just bear with me. Sorry about this. Nearly there. There we go. Infographics, that's another nice one. So I've talked a lot about creating content, blogs and articles and e-guides and that kind of thing. Not everybody wants to read stuff. Some people like to look at pretty pictures. So you could create some infographics. You don't need to be a graphic designer to do this. You could go to canva.com where they have ready-made infographics, and you just fill in the gaps, fill in the boxes, drag and drop, super easy, or get your kids to do it. I should think, you know, an infographic that someone could download on the equity release process. I should think that could go down really well. Canva is free. You don't have to pay for the premium version if you don't want to. Infographics, super thing to do. And if you put on any seminars or workshops, public seminars or workshops, give away a nice handout with a nice infographic on it, a roadmap or something like that, as part of your value to doing that as well. Another thing that's really, really powerful is your backstory. I'm going to give you an example of this towards the end, but how you came to be you is one of the most powerful things that you can have on your website. Remember we said earlier, people buy people. They want to know about you. They just want to know that you're an expert. What shaped you as an individual? How did you become the person that you are? Were there any stories have you got any stories that made you strong as an individual? Or what stories of personal adversity have you got that you could share with people on your website? What brick walls did you come up against in your journey to be an expert? Yes, being an expert is great. Yes, being referred to you is great, but people want to know a bit about you. So if you are thinking about a website, tell something about you as an individual. Something else that's free to do, I love free marketing, is PR. When I first went self-employed 100 years ago, a friend of mine from the BBC said to me, Phil, what's your PR strategy? That went straight over my head. I had no idea what they even meant. And basically what they told me was, anything that you do in your business, tell the local press, tell the national press. If you've gone on a course, tell the press. If you've got staff, you've got colleagues, and they've been on a customer service course, tell the press. If you won an award in the industry, tell the press. You've launched a new podcast, tell the press. You've relaunched your website, tell the press. And a lot of what you tell the press won't end up in the press, but you could still put it as a PR page on your own website as well if you wanted to. But what you're really doing is building relationships with the press, so that when the Chancellor comes along and changes something that is relevant to your clients, who are those journalists going to want to talk to? They're going to want to talk to a financial advisor where they've got a relationship. So PR is free. Get in the habit of sending out regular press releases to the local press. Literally anything that happens in your business, however trivial, tell the press. Maybe you've launched your own wine club, tell the press. Maybe you're doing client walks, tell the press. Get in the habit of doing that. If you don't know how to write a press release, go to ChatGPT and say, we've just launched client walks, please write a press release for our local newspaper, and it will do that super easy. Tell the press. Yeah. Here's something a financial advisor in Manchester does quite regularly is, the weekend newspapers have got quite good personal finance sections. There's a lot of journalists giving financial advice. How they get away with that, I have no idea, but there it is. But so what one financial advisor I know in Manchester does is every Monday morning, he does a review of the weekend press. Sometimes he does it as a blog. Sometimes he does it as an email newsletter. Sometimes he does it as a webinar. And he'll pick out 3 things from the weekend press and say, there was an interesting article about mortgage rates in the Saturday Telegraph. They made some good points. They said this, they said that. They omitted to say this. So he's putting his spin on what somebody else wrote. Again, free for you to do, really good visibility. You could write an article for a local newspaper as well. If you are building relationships with the local press, ask them, could I write a little article? And some of them will even pay you to do it as well. Lunch and learn things as well. You can put on once a month, put on a lunch and learn, get a local business person, maybe a local artist might do a sort of drawing class. We're only limited by our own imaginations. Use your locality and use other people other business friends to support your own clients as well. And if you put on a drawing class, there will be retired people who will want to come to that. And it just helps to keep your name top of mind and get you more referrals. Don't forget networking. I'm seeing what's really, really interesting. It's taken quite a long time for the COVID thing to kind of not disappear, but for people to be much, much more confident about getting out and about. And I'm now seeing more and more financial advisors talking about networking groups, what are the best networking groups. So get yourself out to networking. They cost you nothing. So BNI is the kind of daddy of networking groups. But and the thing about BNI is not everyone's cup of tea, but some people absolutely love it. So BNI Business Networking International, they have one person from each industry or profession. So there'll be one accountant, there'll be one plumber, there'll be one photographer, there'll be one financial advisor. And the idea is that you mutually refer business to each other. There are all sorts of other networking organizations as well. Get yourself out there. There's a website called findnetworkingevents.com. Their website was down yesterday when I looked at it, but it's a really good website for finding networking events, both in-person networking and online. And don't forget, LinkedIn is a networking platform. We haven't really got time to talk in depth about LinkedIn, but the LinkedIn algorithm rewards people for exhibiting networking behaviors. In other words, supporting, helping, guiding other people. Most financial advisors use LinkedIn to just broadcast free advertising, use it as free advertising. I'm fine with that, but the algorithm can tell the difference between a financial advisor that's just broadcasting something and somebody who is going out their way to comment on other people's posts. So simple thing you can do on LinkedIn, just comment on other people's posts, add some value. The LinkedIn algorithm will notice that you're adding value to other people, and it will reward you by making you more visible in LinkedIn search results, and it will show your content to more people. Simple. I know a number of financial advisors now who are taking this a bit further and actually setting up their own networking groups. This will cost you nothing or next to nothing. And the way you start it is by sending a few notes to local business people and say, look, on Thursday afternoon at 5 o'clock, I'm going to be in the back room of the Dog and Duck. Come on down. Let's have a few drinks. Everybody can introduce themselves, and that may well lead to more referrals. Super easy to do that. I know one financial advisor in Essex whose networking events, he's got something like 500 people turn up to his regular networking events, and that's all the marketing he does now. He looks great because he's the organizer, and he's helping people to introduce to one another, and he's picking up clients left, right, and center. Again, costs you next to nothing to do. Again, something you can promote. Articles and blogs go without saying, free for you to do. You could even get ChatGPT to help you write them. I would urge you not to get ChatGPT to write the whole thing. Just give it some ideas. If you're get started. But writing blogs and articles, great for visibility, great for adding value. You could package some of these up, and you could even sell them to people. Again, sky's the limit on this. If you're not sure what to write about, go to ChatGPT and say, I'm a later life advisor. I'd like to write a couple of articles. Can you give me some ideas? It's super easy to do that. Or go to a website called Answer the Public, answerthepublic.com. And on Answer the Public, you can see all the search queries that people made on Google around different topics. So retirement planning, type that in, and it will show you all the questions that people ask, and that will give you some great ideas for you to write blogs, even create some videos as well. Another free thing you can do, I urge you to email newsletters. If you think that people don't like receiving emails, yeah, there are one or two who don't like receiving emails, but a high value, regular email newsletter is so powerful. And there are many tools that you can use. I use a tool called Beehive, which is just the most wonderful email newsletter tool. It's free up to a certain point, and really valuable, and people just love receiving regular value. Start with your existing clients. Okay, we'll start to wrap up now. For the 60 minutes, why not do a podcast? I know that there are one or two later life advisors now who've got their own podcast. I think it's still a huge, absolutely massive market to educate consumers around equity later life lending, educate people around the myths, around the process. I think a podcast, again, podcasts are free to do, super easy to do. Don't worry about the technical side of it. I would urge you not to go onto YouTube and say, how do I start a podcast? because you will end up going down multiple rabbit holes. What I would urge you to do is just pick up your mobile phone and speak and record it, and put it onto, and before you know it, you're on Spotify, you're on iTunes, you're on Google Play. And something I would argue these days, that just being on Google, having your website on Google, or being visible in ChatGPT search results, you want to also really be visible in iTunes. You want to be visible on Spotify, and it's super easy to do. If anybody wants to know how to do it, just send me a note and I'll send you a little guide on how to start your own podcast. Something else that's free to do or costs very, very little: enter local awards. Multiple financial advisors enter local awards. It just gives you a bit of visibility. It's great networking as well. Gets you out there. Start your own online group. I run about 5 online groups now, which are really just designed to add value to people who are already clients. Super easy to do as well. The humble post-it note is one of the best bits of free marketing that you can do as well. If you see an article in a local magazine or a local newspaper, cut it out, stick a post-it note on it, send it to a client that you think ought to read it, and put, "I saw this and thought of you." I mean, we really are scraping the barrel now in terms of free, low-cost marketing. But it's not scraping the barrel, because this stuff works. We've got so blinded by social media and technology that we think that technology is the only way to market ourselves, yet we can use super simple stuff like that. Public speaking, get yourself out there. Maybe if you want a bit of training on public speaking, I know that's not everybody's cup of tea or idea of fun, but if it feel like it's something in your skill set, then give that a go as well. Get yourself out there. Maybe think about a niche as well. This financial advisor out in Missouri, he has a niche market, and his niche market is professional bass fishermen. That's the only people he's interested in. Now, I would say there's limited opportunity in the UK for later life lending for professional bass fishermen, but what you can do is think about, okay, what categories of people could you focus on or build some marketing around? Homeowners looking to supplement their income, and build your marketing around these specific niches. We all know that more and more older people now who have retired are starting their own business. Maybe that's a market that you could focus on. So, start to wrap up. About your website, you need to know, why do people visit your website? Are they right for your services? And would you like to know their name? Well, how about I can tell you their name? One of the best bits of marketing that you can do, and this is finishing up with this, is a scorecard. Now, this will cost you about £29 a month, but my goodness, is it worth it? It's a quiz at the end of the day, and I just want to skip over a quite wordy one. I wrote a book years ago on how to make a wedding speech. So when I was doing doing rock photography, I was also doing wedding photography, and I have seen hundreds of wedding speeches. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I've written a book called How to Make an Amazing Wedding Speech. And what I've also got on my wedding speech website is a scorecard, or a wedding speech quiz. It looks like this: how ready are you to deliver the perfect wedding speech? And they answer 20 questions around, are you ready for your big moment? And at the end, it gives them a score. Okay, and I give them a freebie as well. Now, just think, how could this be used by financial advisors as well? My thing's stopped. Here we go. You could do your own quiz. How ready are you for retirement and life after work? And you could ask them questions about their retirement vision, funding their lifestyle, or unexpecting. And they answer a few questions, and it gives them a score. So you could do a later life lending scorecard. Are you ready to live a more fulfilled retirement? Answer a few questions. And the sort of questions you might ask them are around their knowledge of equity release. What myths are you believing? How ready for retirement are you already? And might you actually qualify? So you could create an online quiz, super easy to do. But here's the cool part. You don't just get an email address, you get their name, and you get the answers they gave to each question. And what that means is you've got a lead. They wouldn't go through the quiz unless they were interested in later life lending. In other words, they are a warm lead. They arrived on your website, They took the quiz. Yes, they might be answering the quiz on behalf of their relative, but that doesn't matter. But they are a warm lead. I would argue they are a hot lead. And you've got the answers they gave to the question, and you can then follow them up in a really personalized way. Anybody like to learn more about scorecards and quizzes and how you can use that on your website, just again, drop me a line. And finally, the ultimate way I think you could be thinking about adding value to people is to write a book. I did some research yesterday. There's 3 or 4 books out there on equity release. Every single one of you could write a book on equity release. It only needs to be 20 pages long. It doesn't have to be 500 pages. Simple, write a book. Anybody can do it. Join local chamber of commerce. If you're a local business person, get to know people. Get these people. If you join local chambers of commerce, they will introduce people to you, guaranteed. And finally, your About Us page. I said at the beginning, people buy people. What you typically see on the About Us page for most financial advisors is this kind of nonsense. This is a real financial advisor's website. And yeah, okay, it's great to know you're qualified, but how dull is that? Yeah, I've changed the names, by the way. What people really want to know is the extra stuff, what you care about, what you're interested in, what your hobbies are. In other words, what have you got in common with the visitor to your website? I would argue that the bit in brackets needs to be the first thing they read, not the last thing they read. So what I'm really saying is bring your website to life. Simplify it, make it clear who it's for, how it will benefit, use words and phrases that people actually understand, get some case studies in, get those video testimonials in, get something of you in there as well, give them something of real value that they can download, or a quiz, something they can actually do that gives them real value. Everyone loves a quiz. Give them a clear call to action, and finally, know those numbers. So I'm going to hand back to Sanjay. I would imagine that most of you are feeling a little bit like this right now. We've gone at pace. I've thrown a lot at you. If you would like even more, check out the Advisor Growth Community, which is just packed full of marketing and lead generation and business development ideas for financial advisors. Just go for it, and I'd love to see you in there. So I'm going to stop sharing my slides there, and I go back to you, Sanjay, just to see if we've got any questions.
Fabulous, Phil. Thank you so much, and I'll give you a couple of moments just to get yourself back as well. So really appreciate the content and the thoughts and ideas that you've shared with the audience. There were a couple that came through on the chat whilst you're going through. So Jonathan, just to confirm, yep, we'll get those slides over to you. Claire, you asked about any tools to check website visits, quality of website structure. I know, Phil, you called out clicky.com and Hotjar as potential tools. Are there any others that you may be able to share, Phil?
Those. So Google Analytics is the main one. Now, as I appreciate, we're financial advisors. We're not website designers. But you might, if you do have a website, you could also sit down with your website designer and say, what are these numbers telling me? Is my website crap? Or is it good? Or is it nearly there? Is it working? Is it turning people away? So sit down with your designer. Or here's another thing you can do, is go to ChatGPT and paste in, and you need the top end version of ChatGPT, paste in your website address, or copy and paste your website copy onto ChatGPT and say, what am I missing? Why, how could I tweak the wording, and get AI to do it for us?
Excellent. Thank you, Phil. And in fact, just an extension on Google Analytics, one gentleman here has asked, what does active users on Google Analytics mean? That's something.
So those are the number of people who visited your website, basically.
Excellent. Brilliant. They're the ones that have come through on the chat, but for the audience that are still here as well, do you have any more? Feel free to take yourselves off a mic. If we've got Phil here, we've got an amazing expert with his time. If you've got any questions here, then do shout. Here we go. There's a couple more coming through. So Deborah has asked, I feel that people are less willing to recommend in the later life lending. Is there still a stigma attached to clients that have taken out a lifetime mortgage. I don't really want to shout about it. Are there any thoughts or ideas there, Phil, in terms of how
Yes,
we can support overcome?
that's a really interesting one. So we could talk about
Mm,
how to get more referrals till the cows come home. The key bit, and I understand the premise of the question. It's a really good point. Um, the key skill when it comes to referrals is not just to say at the end of the meeting, could you recommend me? It's to make them really excited about recommending you. So they go, I've got to tell my auntie about this. I've got to tell them. And one of the ways to do that is, and it's a skill that's worth thinking about, is to, when you are working with a client, is to spot the moments where the client is experiencing value. Now, this happens all the time. We just don't notice it, or it goes straight over our head. And typically, if you're working with a client, you're explaining and you're going through the so on and so forth, if people are nodding their head, that's a sign that they're experiencing it. If they go, oh, I
mm,
see now. Oh, I didn't
mm.
realize that. Oh, I get that. That's an interesting point. Oh, you've taken a weight off my shoulders. Those are all moments of value. And the trick is to be able to just to get into the conversation. Well, I'm glad you appreciate that, and maybe you've got some friends that you want to tell about that, so that they can benefit in this way as well. And it's a skill. It takes a little bit of practice. Here's a little trick you can do. And I know more and more advisors now in all parts of the industry now are recording their client meetings, just as you're recording this right now. What you can do is you can take the recording of the meeting, and take a transcription of it, take out the client's name, obviously anonymize it, run it through AI, through ChatGPT, just literally copy the transcript into ChatGPT and say, can you list out the moments of value that were taking place during this meeting? What opportunities did I miss to ask for a referral? So yes, I get the premise of the question. Yes, there will be some people who will never want to say to their friends, oh, I've just taken an equity release. So I understand that, but we could actually be getting far, far more. An interesting book worth reading if you want to get more referrals is a book called Get More Referrals Now by a guy called Bill Cates, Cates. He's a US expert, but the book is very, very relevant to the UK as well. Really, really good. And it talks about these moments of value and how to spot them.
Thank you, Phil. And just an extension on that one as well. Food for thought here is, as opposed to sort of asking for that recommendation by way of you must go and speak to me for an equity release plan to the advisor. It's more about the solution. The you've been able to support that initial customer with a financial solution because of their requirements. So it could be because they've had to pay off an existing mortgage or support children getting onto the property ladder, and it's more around, do you know anyone who have children that might need support too? As opposed to pointing out or
Yep,
highlighting the fact that it's an equity release plan. It's more around the benefit that customers had. Phil,
absolutely.
yeah,
That
sorry.
question, do you know other people in a similar position?
Hmm.
You don't say, don't give me, don't, you don't need to say, can you give me the names of 5 people you know who are in the same position? Forget that. That comes later. It start with a category because it's lower risk for the person to volunteer the information.
Yeah. Phil, Jonathan has asked if can you stick the web address in the chat perhaps for the advisor growth community? I know
I'll
I
give
did
it to
see it
you
on the
out loud
slide.
right now because
Excellent.
I've got it. So it's
Uh-huh.
www.school.com, school spelled SKOOL,
Yep.
school.com
Hmm.
slash advisor dash growth dash community. Advisor dash growth dash community.
There we go.
School.com /. You've got it, Sanjay. Well done.
Happy days. Thank you very much, Phil. Hopefully that helps you there, Jonathan, too. I was also looking at answerthepublic.com whilst you were talking, in fact, and I know there's sort of like a free trial on there, but lo and behold, I defaulted to equity release, and it does give some good insight in terms of what questions are being asked out there too. So some great insight, Phil. Thanks for sharing that too. Pause for a moment to see has anyone got any further questions or anything you wish to ask our expert on this particular clinic?
And if not now, they're welcome to get in touch with me, and more than happy to
Absolutely.
help them.
Absolutely. Excellent. Right. There we go. Jenna's just stuck on. Thank you very much for the prompt there, Jenna. For those that are on and engaged on this session today, we really hope you've enjoyed it. Phil, thank you so much for your time, for your energy, and for your insight, thoughts, and ideas. We are running a series of clinics here. So the next one we're running is with myself and one of our business development managers, Philip Beswick. We'll be supporting you next week with how we can identify vulnerable clients in the later life space. And then the last session is on the 21st of March, which is where we'll be giving you insight in terms of repayments and how that can support your customers when considering lifetime mortgage solutions. Yes, Phil, sorry, it is Phil Calvert. Thank you so much for putting that in the chat. Thank you all again for your time this morning. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and you have a positive week ahead. And we look forward to supporting you and your customers soon. Take care.
Nice to see you. Take care, everyone. Thanks, Sanjay.
Thank you very much, Phil.